Hello, Taurus. Thank you so much for being here with me again. All right, guys. So I really like what's going on here, but with perseverance, it's one of those things where you can't give up just because you're setting some higher standards this time. So from Lay Vampire, you pulled nobility, honor, high standards, and idealistic. And then from Chakra Wisdom, you pulled perseverance. Now, nobility is definitely talking about you setting some higher standards and doing the best thing for yourself and for others. And there's nothing wrong with setting higher standards, but with perseverance, it may be one of those things that you feel like you may have set the standards a little bit too high, and now you're not seeing what you've been wanting, but it's telling you not to give up. This card is really about not giving up before the miracle. You may not see what you're wanting just yet, but it's right there, like it's right there. Now, the card at a glance says, this card refers to movement and true feelings. Focus on that which supports you. You may have a heightened emotional state, and this card can inspire or discourage. You are being offered a way of getting something back on track. And really, for some of you, getting back on track is going to be all about, you setting those higher standards. All right, Taurus, here we go. Here is your overall for the week. The Eight of Cups, man. So, for me, immediately when I see the Eight of Cups, the question becomes whether or not you're actually walking away from something that isn't fulfilling you anymore. And my problem with it is we're at an 8. Which says that you spent a lot of time with this, whether this is a job that's no longer fulfilling to you or a relationship, whatever it is. You've invested a lot, especially emotionally, into this. The moon in the background for me on the Eight of Cups just represents that, you're heading on an unknown path. You don't know what's ahead. If you walk away from this, what does this mean for you? What are you going to do next? But really, it's about a situation that is no longer fulfilling and you needing to move on from it. Now, boy, in the past, the King of Swords. So for some of you possibly dealing with an air sign here, the King of Swords as a past coming through can be talking about, a person that you're dealing with who is, I hate to say this, he gets such a bad rep, and it's not that he doesn't have emotions. It's just that he doesn't allow the emotions to cloud his judgment. But then at the same time, he's one of those people where, if you start to feel something and express that, he's going to cut it down like that's not logical. That doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? But, it could be somebody who is emotionally detached. And it's not to say that air signs don't have emotions. It's just maybe the person you're dealing with here. Now, in the present, wow, Taurus, the Four of Cups, you're not interested. Clearly you're dissatisfied. And then again, with the Eight of Cups, it's just a matter of moving on from it. But the Four of Cups in the present, it's just not good enough anymore. And for some of you, you may be rejecting an offer from this person, though, too. That is a part of the Four of Cups. But it's being dissatisfied, being bored. It's not enough. It's not good enough. It is not fulfilling. And there's that need there to kind of go inward and understand why you're feeling the way that you are. But you're just not in it. And even if somebody is coming through and they're offering you this Ace of Cups, you're like, meh, yeah. I'm not having it. I'm not interested. Now, future conditions, the Eight of Wands. Now, this can definitely be talking about communication that's being done, but, again, the eights, right? Things start moving quickly, right? It's about fast-moving energy, and in some cases, it's, seeing everything kind of fall into place. One of the things, though, that I say with the Eight of Wands is when you see this card, it can suggest that there is a need for you to act in the moment when the time is right, and you will know. You will know when you need to act, and you're going to have to do it, right? But I just think that a situation quickly, goes downhill, almost, with the Four of Cups and the Eight of Cups being there. And for some of you, you may be just trying to quickly move away from this and move on from this. Because, nobody wants to stay in that kind of feeling of the Four of Cups, Your best path to follow, the Four of Pentacles. What I want to say is, when I look at the Four of Pentacles, first of all, you're talking about somebody who's not willing to give. They're not wanting to share, right? You've gotten to this point where you start to see stability and you're not wanting to let it go. There's a fear of loss too, right? But it keeps you stuck. It keeps you stuck where, you can't go through the changes that you need to. For some of you, it can definitely show that maybe some of you are holding on a little bit too tightly to, this Eight of Cups that just isn't working. Or you're holding on to not wanting to give in, to something here that just is not good enough, right? You're not interested. But either way, with the Four of Pentacles, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It just depends on what you feel like you're holding on to so tightly that it's not allowing room for change, which can, like I said, definitely point back to the Eight of Cups here. Now, wow, in your environment, judgment, man. So, judgment, right, the call to action, but then also, it's making amends for the past, making amends for who you were in the past, right? I don't necessarily feel like this is a situation where you're facing the judgment of another person. I don't think that that's it at all. I think it's all about you and needing to go through your own kind of rebirth here, but needing to go through the changes that are necessary and letting go, letting go, I don't think it's a situation here where, like, if you're trying to maintain yourself and not give in to something that isn't good enough. I agree with that. But, again, it prevents change, right? And again, between the two of them, it's just like, let go. Just let it go, right? Go through that rebirth, move on. And some of you may just be in a position here where you need to work on whatever past issues may be involving this King of Swords here and needing to be done with that, Wow, Taurus, what is happening? And I go back to nobility and think that, you're setting higher standards for yourself. You deserve better, and you do. Okay. Now, that's, man. The Seven of Swords and your hopes and fears. This is rare that I feel this way, but with the King of Swords coming through here, I think some of you may be fearing that somebody has a hidden agenda here. That, or they may have done this before, and there is a fear of it happening again. I don't necessarily feel like, this is you. Now, for some of you, yeah, it could definitely be the case where you're going to have to pick up what you can and get the hell out of Dodge, right? And needing to leave things behind here and leaving behind this Eight of Cups, whatever is not fulfilling you anymore. But I feel more so that we're worried about facing a situation like this again. The Seven of Swords is keeping things on the down low. It's sneaky, sketchy. Somebody's got some hidden plans. They're not wanting anybody to find out about it. Now they could just be, not wanting to talk about what they have planned yet, or they're not revealing the way that they think or feel. But I think that there's more of a fear of you needing to go through this again than it actually happening anytime soon. I think you've already been through that. And then the Magician. No, that is not good. Not good. Okay, so one of the things that we say when it comes to the Knight of Cups, right? That's great and all that you've got, this knight riding in on his horse with, pure intentions and love and all this, but his emotions are fickle. He kind of goes wherever his emotions are leading him. And I think it's leading him or her to you because you look really good right now. Because I do think that the Queen of Wands is representing you as far as feeling good, looking good, being in control of your shit. She commands attention. Right? And you have the Knight of Cups coming out and you have this, fast moving situation happening. It may be because they look at you this way. Like, okay, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of her energy. You know what I'm saying? Him or her. But, really this is somebody that gets attention. And it's happening to you. With the Knight of Cups. I don't necessarily feel like this is you making the offer because of you in the present moment here going, meh, I don't know. I don't know about all that, but it almost looks like somebody is persistent in doing this. Now, unfortunately, though, and it's no wonder why you're setting some higher standards, with the devil and the magician coming out, I don't like seeing the magician next to a negative card because I hate the word manipulation. I don't think it's right that anybody does that. Now, the devil, right, you could be talking about a toxic relationship, something negative that is stripping you of hope. You know it's a bad situation, but the temptation is there. And it may be somebody who is trying to manipulate you to, take this offering, which may not be, the best thing for you, right? I mean, you're already dealing with enough as far as the Eight of Cups. And this could be like an ongoing cycle for some of you as far as, relationships go. Why should I continue to invest emotionally into this if it's just going to keep going the same way? And again, it brings me back to you fearing having to deal with this kind of nonsense again. Wow, Taurus, wow. This one's a little rough, but I think that you're doing the right thing, and I wouldn't give up on it. Definitely set some higher standards for yourself because you deserve better than being manipulated by somebody that, is not good. Not good. I don't think that Knight of Cups even knows what the hell he's trying to offer. For some of you, it could definitely be, the person that you're dealing with now, or this could be somebody from the past coming back through. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, right? Like, I'm trying to cover all my bases here on it being a general reading, but I do think that this is going to have to do with, some emotional connection going on. But, man. And again, it's because you are the Queen of Wands right now, right? This is why you're receiving the attention that you are. And it may be because you're doing really good. And it's just a matter of you now not being tempted to give into this again, Wow. All right. Let me look at the soul trees and see what other messages there are for you guys. But, again, what I love out of all of this is nobility. Higher standards. Expecting better. And you do deserve better, right? But don't feel like you set your standards too high. Especially if you're dealing with somebody who is trying to manipulate a situation, because I do think that that's what's going on with the magician there. I don't think that that has to do with manifesting anything cool. Now with the devil being there. And the Knight of Cups, he's questionable as he is. All right, Taurus. What are the messages for Taurus? Patience. Having patience with yourself and with you seeing the things that you want to see. Oh, what is grounding you? The root chakra. And then new path emerging, very nice. And with the Eight of Cups, that is what you need. Even though you may not know what is going to happen later. But patience, having patience with getting to where you want to be, right? And really looking at what is grounding you. And once you do that, that new path is going to emerge. I like it. I like it. It sucks when, you spend so much time with something and it just turns out to be nothing. And then on top of that, doing what you need to set these better standards and then not really seeing what you've been working for. But definitely don't give up. Patience. Have patience. Look at what is grounding you. And once you understand that and you feel more grounded in yourself and your emotions, that new path will emerge for you and it will be clear. It won't be under the light of the moon. Physical touch is important. For some of us, nothing is more important than a tender touch. This might include a pat on the back or giving a hug to someone who needs it. So the way that I feel about this is, yeah, physical touch is important. But, if you're wanting to receive this, you have to give it. And it could just be simply like giving somebody you love a hug. Like, you know what? I may not have what I want as far as a relationship goes right now, but, you're important to me. Let me give you a hug. Like attracts like. If you are longing for more love in your life, you need to be more loving. And then it goes right back to this, right? Being more loving to the people that are around you so that you can attract it into your life. And you're not attracting people who, are not bringing the emotional game, right? But wow, Taurus. So now back to the Eight of Wands, and when I was focusing in on that, this could be like quickly happening here. Like this is somebody who's choosing to act quickly because it's almost like they realize that the door is closing for them. But anyway, Taurus, I think that coming out of this, I would just be aware of what is being offered to you and be careful about being tempted to continue to work on something that is not bringing you the emotional fulfillment that you deserve, because I'm telling you, right? It's not good. It's time to move on from this now. And don't give up, right? Like, don't give up on the things that you're wanting. You may not see them right now, but damn it, keep those high standards. All right, Taurus. So one of the things that I say about the Eight of Cups is, it's easy enough for somebody to tell you you need to walk away, but sometimes it's not that easy. And again, it being an 8 is very telling as far as how much time you have spent with this and how much you have invested emotionally into this and how much it's just not satisfying you anymore. I mean, that's evident here with the Four of Cups. But I do think with the King of Swords coming through, that, it's almost like, it's like somebody trying to offer you something and not really even thinking about the fact that they've already tried to do this before, and for you it's just looking at the same thing again, and you being like, man, like, I've seen this before. Why? Why should I accept this? But I think that there's like a moment of pause for you where you're still thinking about whether or not you're going to accept or reject. But what I worry about a little bit is with the Eight of Wands, because it's almost like, you feel like things are moving too quickly here, and it's like, do you accept it or reject it? And you need to decide now, like, it's too quick. It's too quick. But, oh man. I like the Knight of Cups, but I always question his motives, because when you're talking about somebody that, doesn't understand their own emotions, right, and then making offers, you have to wonder, well, where is this coming from? And with the clarifiers, again, as far as the Queen of Wands, I really think that that's the reason why this is coming about. You're doing good. You look good. You're managing your shit. You look fantastic. And you're getting attention, and it's somebody wanting to make this emotional offering here. But I think that you've already been done through that and rejected it, and you've moved on. I feel like as far as you go, you've moved on. It's all about the rebirth here, right? Making amends with yourself and who you were in the past and whatever happened in the past. It is what it is. It is the past. I have other things I need to do. But I almost feel like you're tempted. And it may be because this was a situation where, it didn't work out, but yet here it is coming back around again. Do you continue to feed into this even though it's not going to satisfy you? There's so many dimensions and layers to this. Now, with the Four of Pentacles, I don't necessarily feel like this is a bad thing. Yes, as long as you continue to stay in this mentality of needing to maintain things the way they are, then nothing will ever change, right? But as far as with the Four of Cups, yeah, I wouldn't give up your position if you don't feel it's good enough, right? So that part I agree. The other part, though, is you needing to just kind of like let go as far as the Eight of Cups goes. Now, the Seven of Swords was a little bit weird for me, because immediately I felt like you've already been through this and it's a fear of going through it again. Like, seriously. And that may be the reason why you're like, you know what, I've seen this before. I've seen this nonsense. I don't want to do this again. But then at the same time, it's still being tempted to do it. Now, the other clarifiers, as far as Mr. Knight of Cups goes, to me, it's really the King of Swords here. This person does not understand their own emotions, let alone how to make an emotional connection. And this is just for some of you, again, general reading, right? But it doesn't mean that all air signs are that way. It's just that this particular person that some of you are dealing with has no idea what it means to be emotionally invested in something, but you do. Now, with the Devil and the Magician, no. And I hate seeing the Magician that way because usually I'm like, yeah, I'm manifesting some cool ass shit. But it's not happening this time. It could be, you know, a toxic situation that you know is bad that somebody may be trying to manipulate. And it's because they don't understand their emotions. Man, Taurus, there's a lot going on with this one. But I would just say that for some of you who are dealing with a person that, you know, is not emotionally available, if they try, they're not doing a good job at it. And I think you've seen this game before. And I do think that you're setting some higher standards for sure. And I mean, with these two, you know, just because you're not seeing what you want, because you're setting some higher standards, doesn't mean that you should give up. You're not setting the standards so high that you can't meet it or that somebody else can. It's just that you've been through enough and you deserve better than what you've had before, right? Now, as far as the soul trees go, patience and the root chakra and new path emerging. So if you have patience, even though you're not seeing things yet and you stay grounded, right, that new path will emerge. And that's basically it. Stay grounded and be patient. Now, as far as love goes, for some of you here, there is a need for you to be kind, to be loving. Physical touch is important, and then like attracts like. So, you know, if you're able to be loving to other people here and like show it in a physical way, that's good, right? It's going to come right back to you. So, you know, like I said, the people that you love in your life, give them a hug. Let them know that you love them, right? But Taurus, man, I would just be aware of, you know, somebody making offers to you because you're doing well. And, you know, especially if this is somebody that you've dealt with in the past that just does not understand, you know, an emotional connection. I think you're okay. I think you're doing the right thing by really going inward and just trying to, like, understand your emotions around it, but then also by, with judgment, leaving it alone. It is the past, right? But just be careful with the Eight of Cups. You know, you don't want to keep feeding into a situation that is not going to fulfill you.